We'll begin here. Find a seat on your mat, creating any comfortable shape with your seat to create a lift in your chest and a length in your spine. For our practice today, we'll need some props, some extra support. Maybe you have yoga blocks or a thick blanket that you can use. If you don't have those specifically available, get creative. Find a couple of thick folded towels or a couple of cushions from your bed or your couch. Something you can use as a way to find support, but a way to find extra cushion beneath you as well. Once you're here, settle in. Close your eyes and attend to your breath. Breathing in and out through your nose, notice the spaces that move as you breathe. See if you can practice deep, relaxing belly breathing by taking a full breath in through the nose and noticing that lift in your belly and in your chest. And then breathing out deeply through the nose. Feel the release of your breath completely. Slow and low, deep breaths through the nose can help relieve stress and reduce blood pressure. See if you can really engage your diaphragm, breathing deeply through the nose, a proper healing breath. Okay, we're going to come forward onto our mat now. We'll move around to various places on our mat. You might want to keep track of your props as you move around for the practice today. Have them nearby. We're coming into child's pose to begin, our first pose for the practice. Knees wide, big toes together to touch. And then again, a little bit of extra support or cushion. So blocks beneath forehead as you lower. Come down a little closer with your crown of your head reaching forward to the front of the mat. We're moving into this pose with an ease of the breath and finding a depth and a greater reach of the length of our spine and our lower back. Now, as you first come into the pose, maybe you need extra support, but as you come lower down towards the mat, gradually, take your time to adjust and find a position that allows you to stay a little longer. In our Yin Yoga practice, we create comfortable shapes, again with support beneath us, so that we can become really, really heavy and still. So find that shape and settle here. Lengthen spine and length in breath. As we continue to take in air through the nose, we're lowering the burden of the heart as we breathe properly, fully engaging our diaphragm. See if you can shine a floodlight of attention on your breath and the way it feels in your body to breathe even deeper and slower. Keep coming back to the movement of your breath, creating this simple shape, and practicing a one-pointed focus and concentration, practicing inner listening. Remember, as we practice this inner listening, we take time to hear the sound of the breath, to feel the sound of the breath, and notice when our mind wanders away from this fascination of our breath. That's the practice. Keep pausing to recognize how you're breathing. When the mind wanders, notice and bring it back. Begin again. As we have been holding this pose for some time, consider coming out of it slowly and gradually, just the way that you went into the pose. Take your time. Perhaps, as you've lifted up to find some reach through spine, you can reach your right arm under and through your left. The palm spins up towards the sky. A block or an extra support beneath the forehead, whatever you have available. Again, create the shape, the length in your spine, crown forward, tailbone reaches back. So this is a different variation of child's pose. We're reaching through with the right arm, feeling the stretch through the right shoulder, perhaps in other places along the upper back. Take your time to again bring your forehead ever so closer to the mat. You can also use your left hand as a support beneath your forehead, maybe make a fist. Again, we're just taking our time to open gradually. Plenty of time to cultivate mindfulness. Notice how you feel as you pause here for a few more deep breaths. There's never any rush to come out of the pose. Sliding left hand back to press into it. Take your time to unwind the reach of that right arm. Come back Maybe in your child's pose for a moment with the chest lifted, just reaching your hands forward and shift from side to side with shoulders and hips before we do the other side. Left arm threads under and through. Lowering forehead down, maybe on support. Again, let the palm, left palm, the hand that you reached through, let that palm be skyward to rotate safely at the shoulder head. Create the optimal reach of the spine and the optimal reach of your breath. Again, we're cultivating mindfulness and a deeper awareness, sense of self. Perhaps this side feels different than the other side. No judgment, just observing, noticing, taking note. You can come down even lower. Continue to practice inner listening, an introspective practice that links and harmonizes your body, mind, and heart. Pause, breathe. Find your natural rhythm, your rise and fall of your body and breath. Remember, transformation happens gradually, so take your time to come out of that shape, reaching both hands back to the mat, pausing here, and then coming onto the weight of the hands, lift your seat, move your props out of your way if you used something that might still be on the mat, so that we can just maybe roll out ankles and toes, rolling out hands, wrists, maybe one hand at a time. And you can shift back for a moment, back and forth. Find a little bit of free movement here. Maybe inhale, lift chest, and exhale, round the spine and looking back toward the knees. Shifting from side to side, really any playful movement. Kind of just coming out of the pose with the sense of, again, freedom and liberation for any tight spaces you may have encountered. Okay, we're going to again have a seat. Spine is going to be upright. If that feels a bit difficult, if you feel collapsed in your lower back, sitting up on a prop, lifting hips a little higher can really help. Lower your knees a little closer to the mat. Once you've found your seat, maybe reach your legs out long in front of you. And just notice your tailbone rooting down on whatever seat you've created. Sitting bones rooting down. And then we'll create our next shape. Butterfly pose with the feet together. This is an awesome pose to again come into slowly and gradually with the knees rotating outwardly. Notice how this feels. Line up your heels, your toes. You can use a prop beneath the thighs, but ensure that your knees are directing out so that you can allow your hips and lower back to get a nice stretch here. You're welcome to stay upright or reach forward with your arms and lean into this. You created a shape, a structure with the lower body, and now you can investigate some new spaces with breath. First few seconds of the pose, again, you're just kind of acclimating yourself to the shape, using your breath to create a softness and an ease. Maybe you're dissipating some tension that initially arises. Again, using your breath to facilitate that softening. The deeper you breathe, the more you can release, the more you can let go of that held tension. If the chin wants a little bit of support, get creative. Maybe you're resting your chin in your palms. Should feel really good here in the lower back. Only lean as far forward as it feels good to do so. If the forehead wants a little bit more support, maybe the back of the neck is feeling fatigued, build up and rest. Breathing deep in and out through the nose. We're triggering different hormones to flood into our bodies. Again, lowering blood pressure, monitoring heart rate. This breath is an incredible tool. Now I have one more suggestion for this pose. Again, create a shape that works for you. Maybe reach the legs out a little further forward with the feet out a little wider apart from one another. And then again, lean into it. As long as you're feeling it, it's working. Once you found the shape that feels supported, that the breath can feel fully realized, come to complete stillness and let yourself be. Plenty of time to contemplate, continuing to cultivate mindfulness as though you're shining a floodlight of attention and awareness on this moment and this breath. Allowing yourself to open connective tissue, getting a sense of cleansing with more blood flow, more circulation. Last few breaths here. Be yourself breathing. Your chin drop in closer to your chest. Let your shoulders round forward. Breathe into the spaces all along your spine. Okay, maybe a little wiggle in fingers and toes. Avoid jerking yourself out of the pose. Use your hands to press down into and gradually again come up. Hinge at your hips. Take your time to lengthen your spine and come upright. Pause here for a breath or two. Notice again, observing whatever's coming up. Little counter pose here. Move your props. You can remain seated if you're on a prop, but move them from beneath the knees so that you can reach your legs out further. Knees bent, feet flat, hands behind you so that you can maybe drop your knees from side to side, releasing any kinks in the lower back. And then invite the shoulders into the conversation. Make sure that you are leaning into the weight of your hands so that you can reach your shoulders in the opposite direction of your knees. Perhaps you're letting your head drop back if that feels good for the back of the neck. Pausing for a beat or two between sides. Okay. We're going to make space on our mat. And maybe there's extra cushion on your mat so that you can rest your hip points as we're going to come down to rest along our belly. So have that nearby, maybe even bringing that now on your mat to prepare. Hip points will lower onto cushion or directly onto the mat. Take your knees back further than the hips and reach out long with your legs as you come down onto your elbows, your forearms. Reach out through your toes. Get length through the entire reach of your legs as you do. Pause here. Props might be really nice as we pause here for a few minutes, holding the pose a little longer for this yin practice. You can rest your forehead here. Again, the elbows, the forearms are on the mat, also being used as a prop. Feel the reach here, maybe in your lower back. Breathe deeply here. This pose is the perfect antidote to our active, busy lives, to the frequent sitting that we tend to do. Breathe into the base of the spine, the lower back. See if you can send your breath awareness there again, shining a floodlight of attention. Feel your reach of your toes, but can you keep them soft? Soften your knees and let your thighs release. Lower back and outer hips. Find more ease. As you observe yourself staying in this pose and observing what the effects of the pose has on the body, the mind, the levels of stress, take your time to adjust. Maybe you're coming down a little closer with your forehead. Instead of using any props, you can move them out of your way altogether and just use the prop of your arms as you let your forehead come down towards the mat. Chin comes closer towards the chest. And just let yourself hang out heavy here. Maybe your shoulders even round more forward. Just creating a meditation in this simple shape. An exploration of the self. Becoming familiar with the habitual patterning of the mind. Intensity will wax and wane. The breath comes and goes. You're welcome to stay right here or for the last minute or so in this pose. Perhaps you're taking a different reach, a different angle of your hands. Decide if you're going to move with me now. Maybe bring your hands out towards the outer edges of the mat. Feel the reach into the hands, and if you'd like, start to lift your elbows, your forearms off the mat, and get a deeper, wider reach through the palms, the reach of the arms. But keep a little micro bend in your elbows. Softening there. Try not to create any rigidity. Pause here. Let the eyes and jaw soften, noticing any unconscious gripping anywhere. Again, through your toes, your knees, your shoulders. Rinse out tension with the breath. Okay. Gradually we will come out of the pose, lower your elbows and forearms if they were lifted. We'll fold the arms in and create a little support with the stacking of our palms to rest forehead. As you stay here, observe the spaces in the spine along the lower back. Maybe you're lifting your heels. You could bend your knees to do so and just let your legs sway from side to side. Maybe again observing those same sensations in the lower back. Rolling out your ankles, feel free to point and flex out through your feet. And then again lower your feet, your legs, resting on the mat once more. Pause and observe the rise and the fall of your belly against the earth beneath you. Okay, we'll come slowly back to child's. Bring your hands to the sides of your rib cage, press into hands and knees, and bring your seat closer towards your heels. Pause here. If you'd like to bring your hands together as though they were in prayer, and then bending at the elbows and reaching the hands back towards the back of the neck, or resting your palms on the back of your shoulders, as though you were giving yourself a gentle hug. We'll make our way back to hands and knees on our mat. The next pose will be with the knees on the mat. So maybe you've got that extra cushion, bring your knees onto. Maybe you've got your props in front of you now to rest your hands on and find a little bit more of a lift so that there is space to reach through with the right foot coming towards the front of the mat, creating a low lunge. Toes forward, knee over front heel. Get some length in the back, left knee and thigh. Reach out through the back toes. Take a moment. You're stacking knee. Feel the reach of the knee forward as you rest your hands on your blocks to find the reach of your chest forward. Maybe you're resting your forearms on your front thigh, right and then left. Pause here, crown towards the sky, tailbone reaches down. Pause, recognize how you're breathing in this challenging pose. We won't stay here too long. But again, see if you can observe how you're reacting in this pose. Soften and slow down your breath. Shoulders move back away from the ears. Notice where sensation resides in the body and send the breath to that specific spot. And then we'll have a different variation now. Go ahead and walk your front right foot out wider, toes and knee pointing out in the same direction. Back knee, back thigh should feel good here. Rest your hands on blocks or props to the inside of that right front foot. Pause here. You can lower your forearms, your elbows on your support. Maybe come down a little closer to the mat, but still looking for the optimal reach of your spine, crown away from tailbone. One more option, if you'd like to rest your right hand on that right thigh, you can. Maybe it's a little bit more of a reach for the chest, the shoulders, if you look towards your right side. Again, come to stillness. This can be the most challenging part of the practice. In times of stress or tension, pause and regulate your breath. Notice your reaction to the tension. See if you can regulate yourself here by slowing down your breathing. And then we'll come out of the pose. Front right foot comes back in. Maybe the back knee comes a little closer to you. Bring your foot in closer, that front right foot, so we can come into a counter pose. Shift your seat, your hips, your tailbone back. And then find more reach in the front right leg. So you can walk your blocks, your hands in closer to you. As you find that reach through the heel, the toes, maybe rock your right foot side to side. Feel it in the right hip and thigh. And then come back. We'll do the other side. Maybe you're lifting your hands a little higher, create a little bit of space so that you can reach through, this time with left foot, left leg. Bring it forward to the front of the mat between the palms. Take care of the back knee, back thigh. You're not directly on the back knee itself. You're on the fleshy part right above it. Set yourself up here. Reach out through the back foot, the toes. Rest hands a little higher to create reach through chest and the upper body. And pause here. Or again, you have the option of resting your forearms on the front left thigh. That might be a great option if you don't have blocks available. Left forearm and then right. And then again, find your edge in the pose, and that can be simple stillness and quiet. Probably the most challenging part of the practice. It may appear that nothing is happening, but there's a work inward. Pause and recognize that. You can again decide if you're going to stay a little longer or rearrange the position of that front left foot. Turn the toes and the knee out wider. You guessed it. You can come down closer with your elbow, your forearms onto a block or a prop. Maybe you're staying with your hands on that prop and the length of the arms instead. So whatever option you're in, come to stillness. Maybe it's a little bit of a twist with the left hand on left thigh. You might even observe mental squirming, a mental fidget. Be still, rest, and trust that your breath is working for you here as you stay, you hold the pose, rinsing away tight spaces with breath. Okay, again, not too long in these poses. They're a little bit more intense. Come out slowly, hands back on your block. Walk that front left foot back in line with the knee, toes forward. And then shift your seat back as you come out of the pose with a little bit of movement. Reach out through the front left leg, this time toes pointing up, and then you can rock the toes and feel it in the left hip and thigh. Then we come back, create that low lunge shape so that we can bring in the back knee and then step back with both knees and shift to child's pose. Pausing here. Knees out wider if you'd like. Maybe even keeping your hands on your prop to lift them a little higher. See if that feels any different here as you pause in child's pose before we move into our next pose. Create the rhythm of your breath. Sound of the breath leads the way. Take your time now. If you want maybe a different variation for child's, rest your elbows on your blocks. And again, reach the hands. Palms now rest on the back body. Make your way now back to hands and knees and tabletop. So we're still going to need our cushion beneath our knees, but in tabletop now, bring your knees together, closer, so that the inner edges of the knees and your feet come together. Your toes can remain tucked under here. This is a toe squat. If it's too much for the intensity of the feet, if there's too much sensation, maybe untuck the toes, but still find lift and length in spine, ears, shoulders, and hips. If you want to return to the toe tuck, again, have a seat on your heels, toe squat, toe stretch, feeling that reach in the entire reach of each foot. Pausing here, lengthen the spine. Now, if you need extra cushion, use it. Maybe you want a little bit of a lift as well. You can prop something beneath the knees. Now, this can be also pretty intense. Mobility through your feet is important as you age. Once you lose adaptability in your feet, your range of motion in your entire body can suffer. So see if you can stay a little bit longer observing your breath and your train of thought. Tight areas in the body can reveal tight spaces in our mind and our thinking. Let yourself be present without judgment. Let yourself observe this experience as it unfolds in front of you. Breathing into the soles of the feet, last few breaths here. Practice that deep belly breathing, feeling the rise in the belly and the chest. And then breathing out through the nose. Notice the effects of that deeper, fuller breath. Okay. Absolutely. Find your way slowly back with knees on the mat. Hands come forward so that we can release the reach of our toes, that toe squat. Roll out your ankles, your knees, and tabletop. And then maybe reach out one leg at a time. Again, just rolling out ankles, toes. You might even press down into your shelf of toes, one leg at a time. And just feel the reach through the back of the leg. Press out through the heels. Okay, so now again, sitting on your heels, but this time with the toes untucked, toes point back. Bring your hands behind you. You can turn the fingers out any way that feels good. And then see if you can start to lift your knees up off the mat. Feel the sensations here, maybe on the tops of the feet, the reach of the ankles. The further you lean back with a bend in the elbows, the more you'll feel that stretch. Take your time. You don't have to go back too far. Again, once you're feeling something, observe that. Increasing your sensitivity to sensation, increasing your self-trust. Pause, breathe, notice. Find your rhythm. And then we'll come out of that. Bring yourself back with your knees. Bring yourself back with your hands. Roll out ankles. We're going to have a seat once more. Any way you get to seated now is fine. Extra cushion for beneath the seat or a little lift. Use a prop beneath you now if you'd like to. Get organized here. You stay seated up right now for the next pose. Okay, so turn your feet out wide, your knees out wide. Come onto the mat with your legs out long, but with the knees bent. Ensuring the knees point in the same direction as the toes. Find the length in the spine, ears, shoulders, hips. Again, props nearby. Always have them nearby in case you may need to build up. That support for the forehead might be a first option here. Keep the knees out wide and then come forward. Reach the arms forward as you lower your forehead. So this again is a nice reach for the spine, the lower back. Feel the energy beneath your feet and your sitting bone, whatever's touching down, so that you can feel the reach longer through the spine. Adjust your props if you need to. So with the feet at this angle, the reach of your spine coming forward, maybe you're feeling the reach of the inner thighs and the inner knees. Welcome the sensations of unfolding, softening of your inner dialogue. There's no rush. And then at this point, if you'd like to reach your legs out a little longer, you can. Maybe you're building support or beneath the back of the knees. Trying it out. As you reach out through legs, your toes are now pointing up toward the sky. Just make sure the knees are pointing still in the same direction as your toes. And then again, remember you're playing your edge. Play and surf those areas of sensation with breath. Remembering that time is the magic ingredient in this Yin Yoga practice. See if you can stay. Pause and breathe. It's not how far you fold. It's about the quality of your breath and the time that you can stay here. At this point, as we finish up our pose, our hold, you can walk the hands out a little further forward and stay here for the last few breaths in this pose. Maintain a softness in the knees, even if you can fully reach out through your legs. With a soft reach through our heels, the soft reach through our knees, we're ensuring that we're not stretching the knee joint itself, but the muscles around them. Taking our time now to come up. Let your hands walk in closer to you, slide them in slowly and lift through your spine. Recognize how it feels to be more upright now with your spine. Maybe you're using your hands to help you come out of the pose by reaching around to the back of the knees and taking your time to rebend the knees and plant the feet. And then again, come into a counter pose, move your props to do so. Leaning back through the hands, you can reach them behind you. And again, make some space with the feet out wide to drop the knees in and out, side to side. Reaching the shoulders in the opposite direction of the knees as you gently rotate. Feel the reach along the spine. Moving with awareness from the external to the internal, go into the sensations. So for this part of the practice, now we're going to need a wall support. Scoot yourself to a clear wall. Have your props nearby in case you may need extra cushion. We're going to come to rest our head and our shoulders on that cushion, maybe even the lower back. So have some props nearby. And then find your wall support. Sit right next to it with one shoulder, one hip. It doesn't matter which side. Get as close as you can so that as you lie back now, resting your head and shoulders on your support, you're going to take your scoot of your lower back a little closer towards the wall once you've found length in the spine. So use your elbows on your mat just to scoot yourself a little closer so that your lower back is as close to the wall as you can find without any pinching in the base of the spine. You may want to take extra cushion for that area, the tailbone and the sacrum. Adjust yourself, get length in the back of your neck, and then take your time to reach your feet out again wide, just like we did a moment ago, seated. Toes out, knees pointing in the same direction as the toes. You can use your hands on your knees, your thighs, letting the elbows, the upper arm bones rest. Knees and thighs rest in the hands. A little bit of a prop here. Notice how it feels in the very lower back. And just ensuring that your shoulders are over your hips and that there's all this space between your belly and the base of your throat. You can rest your hands on your center here. Notice the energy of your feet pressing against the wall. Maybe you're feeling a nice reach in the inner thighs and in the hips. Maybe feet come in a little closer. You're welcome to bring your knees in line with your heels. Your toes can point out or directly up towards the ceiling. Again, maybe the hands on the knees so that there's a support, or rest your hands on one space that feels particularly interesting to notice the rise and fall. An area maybe that feels a little bit more tender, letting your hands rest in a space to observe the breath there. Again, move with your awareness to explore those sensations. Maybe your arms reach out further away, that your head, your shoulders, your lower back feel grounded. As you observe these sensations, maybe give them a description. Do you notice a buzzing or a vibration, a feeling of heat, maybe even cold? Sensations tend to break up under scrutiny. Observe those sensations. Their form is not permanent or solid. Let them break up and dissipate. Use your breath. If you feel your breath feels sticky or stuck in any one place, stay there a little longer with breath awareness, remembering that these areas are not permanent states of stress or tension, remembering that these states of the body and the mind aren't permanent. We can tend to perceive them as permanent, and that's where we can fall into struggle. Remind yourself that it's not about finding a mood, but rather about existing in a quality that the mind can incorporate all moods. The state of equanimity, state of mental calm and composure. And then we're going to find a little bit more reach to the legs. You can drop the knees from side to side as you come out of that last pose. Again, it's a little counter pose just to create some movement, some space. And then reach the legs now, find length. Maybe bring the inner edges of your feet together, keeping a little bend in the knees. As always, we're not stretching the joint itself, but the muscles around them. Maybe you're pulling your toes back, however, to feel the reach out long through the back of the legs. Shoulders and hips line up. Again, we're not trying to achieve a particular mood. It's the quality of the mind that can incorporate all moods. This is equanimity. The state of being where we're not attaching ourselves to any outcome. We have no agenda. See if you can stay here. This is a wonderful inversion. Head is lower than the heart. Your heels are higher than your heart. Notice what happens when you stay here. Practice an attitude of surrendering into this shape. Surrendering into all of the sensations. Close your eyes. Settle in. We can come out slowly, wiggle fingers and toes, roll onto your side, observing how it feels to come to your side, and maybe you're noticing an ease behind your eyes, muscles around your jaw. Fuller, deeper breath. Coming up slowly when ready to seat it. Take your time to come up and find your seat once more. We'll end the practice the way we began. Any comfortable seat. Maybe seated directly on the mat with the legs crossed, or again, find a prop beneath you. Maybe you're kneeling. And then we'll just pause. Such a great practice for being more self-aware, for developing more sensitivity, more self-trust. Pause and recognize how you feel after making those shapes and holding them for that amount of time. Maybe even noticing the movement in your mind and the movement in your cells. This practice is a deeply healing practice. Fuller capacity for breath and for being present. Take this with you into the rest of your day. This feeling, this sense of simply being. Namaste.